we will move on, but we got more to talk about. Remember, like, subscribe, and follow, because we're gonna go back to kind of one of the places that we like to talk about
Oh
something.
yes.
So I found this, and just to, report back into the world of air taxi, but more aviation. This one is kind of interesting because, according to the Rob Report, there's a new 7-passenger hybrid VTOL that has giant fans inside of its wings, and it raised my eyebrows just quite a bit. And this is called the XTI Turbofan 600, and it's a pretty looking aircraft. Okay? It actually looks like it has something here to turn around and maybe break itself into a slightly different marketplace than air taxi is looking right now, which is in executive transport and also in, say, like the very light jet category. Okay.
Yeah, it's got a whole lot more range than
Yeah, it's
a
got
lot of
more
the stuff we've
range.
looked at.
So right now they're
Course.
saying that this thing has got a 1,380 mile range. Okay, it travels at 345 miles an hour, and it's got a 29,000 feet cruise altitude, and it looks pretty sexy. I'm not gonna lie. It looks like a beautiful, beautiful aircraft, and we're going to delve into the design of it. And now, what mostly is attractive about this one is the fact that it's currently going through its period of funding. Okay, so what's
Yeah.
going through their mind right now is they turned around and they merged, it looks like, with another company. So it looks like XTI Aircraft and Xariant Aerospace. They held a joint press conference, and they're now looking at selling their $5.5 million aircraft. And they said that they're going to have a full scale version up and running by 2024. Now, interestingly enough, April 2019, a 2/3 version of this aircraft actually did go up, and it did hover. And according to their website, they're looking at this as air mobility revolutionized. And I'm not so sure if we're in the revolution or just merely an evolution, because they're basically taking a version of what would be almost like the X-35, right? And they're putting a ducted fan in the actual fuselage. And I'm going to show you a breakdown of it right here. So this is what they're talking about, their breakthrough, that they actually have this TriFan design. All right. And look, by all intents and purposes, the practicality of this is that it looks like on paper, okay, on paper, that this is a viable solution, okay, towards the, I don't know, reinvention of a marketplace that doesn't really exist yet, which would be killing the helicopter for executive travel, right? And this is from their website, the advanced technologies that they're saying that they've got a historical challenges, and they've made this, different. Advanced flight controls, they've got 3 generators, and they have a redundant system. They also have 3 6-foot diameter ducted fans pivoting for VTOL, and a closed body door fan for efficiency, which I do have a question about. They do have a 1,100 shaft horsepower engine, which sounds to me like it's a regular turbine, which is going to power some of this. And then they have the dual electric fan motors, 2 per fan at 250 kilowatts, and they provide 1.0 thrust factor. And they're going with a carbon fiber epoxy structure. Okay, which makes sense. And so for you, Corey, what I'm going to ask you is, I'm a little skeptical, first of all, myself, is that the stability on a tripod is generally not that great, and I just wonder how it's gonna transfer into stability in this type of design. Because that's my biggest concern right now is, could this be stable enough? And I don't know.
If you go back to the other picture where you show the stuff.
Yeah.
I do want to look at.
Now you gotta make me do
just
work.
brainstorming here, just thinking out loud, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I was thinking was looking where they're probably the center of mass.
Right.
It's probably forward of the aft turbofan, abducted fan.
Right.
Because where else would they put the power plant? Right?
You're right.
If you look at that, there's nowhere to put the power plant except right in between the wings, the wing roots.
Correct.
I don't know where else they put it. So they got 5 people seated in the cabin, which basically looks like it'll be a beam and forward of the wing ducted fans.
I know exactly where you're going.
Right? So if you're talking about stability, it's going to rotate pretty well, I think, right around the root of the wing, because that's where a lot of the weight's going to be. But I mean, I'm just thinking out loud there too. But something else I wanted to point out that I was just finding out as you were talking there was,
right.
I mean, I did want to point out they've been in development since 2012. This is a flying prototype, flying vehicle, so they are actually in flight testing. I also discovered their CEO, current CEO, is Robert LaBelle. He's coming from Augusta Westland.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he's not new to the aviation space. So he's got some must have some experience in that as well. And of course, they, as we are looking at today, of course, they're securing some cash, which is certainly
Always
helping
good.
them. So I mean, but just like you mentioned in the opening of this, though, yeah, when they say they're going after some helicopter stuff, yeah, but with that range and that speed and that height, it's not. I'm wondering where. I mean, it does say. Also, I did see in here that the company did say they're happy to try and changing it into cargo
Yeah,
and
sure.
EMS, which would make sense, of course. Especially with the VTOL capability, of course it would.
Right.
So yeah, I mean,
So
what'd
here's
you
the
just
thing.
find?
On their website, right? They have this whole section where it says key facts, and obviously they're going directly after the helicopter because
Is there
they're
a weight
saying
on there?
they're saying range. No, I actually haven't found it yet, but they're saying the range is 3 times helicopter range.
Okay.
Nautical miles, they're saying twice helicopter range, fly by wire,
Yeah, that's
max
what I'm saying.
cruise.
Is they're very much.
They're very much into that. But right now, I don't see it. It says pilot plus 5 passengers.
Okay.
Time to max altitude is 11 minutes, which means I only anticipate this thing going vertical for about 1,000 feet before it transitions into some sort of normal flight regime, which would make more sense.
There's no thrust though, right? It's all thrust from the fans.
Right now, from what I'm understanding is, hold on, let's go back to this because they're saying the thrust. So propulsion. Here's where it says hybrid electric drive initially 40% lower CO emissions, transitioning to all electric or hydrogen fuel cells.
Yeah. Okay.
0 emissions. Okay, and they're projecting. This is what they're saying their range is. Okay, so they can get you from Manhattan.
Unless you want to fly 1,100 shaft horsepower to buy 3 fans.
By 3 fans.
And then I'm sure they have a way to reduce the torque to the aft fan once it closes in the forward flight.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's not out. Obviously, it's not turning anymore. They're then dividing the shaft horsepower purely across the ones in the wing.
Mm-hmm.
All
right, so they're saying here, and they never frequently ask questions, right? And they do say here that they have they flown a prototype, but
well, we saw they did.
Yeah, I know. Here's the thing: they're a little short.
We have a link to that actually.
We
down
do.
below, guys. If you want to check that out too.
They're a little short on answers as far as things that I would want to know. Just like you said, what's their gross weight? What can they actually carry? Their range sounds good to me, but when we go back into the discussion exactly of what you were talking about earlier, there's one other thing. If anybody knows how you load a jet, in most cases, there tends to be a lot of aft loading. Like in an Embraer 145, all of our cargo was loaded in the aft to compensate for the main cabin, right? But I wonder how having a thrust vector from the middle part of the cabin, the way that these doors are going to operate, I wonder if you're having thrust from here, how really stable it's going to be, because these would have to it seems like these would almost have to tilt forwards at that point to keep it kind of stable.
Didn't you say I don't know the schematic, but maybe did you say that the fan in the body is electric powered, or it's powered by directly by a shaft?
I believe it's let's go back.
Because I'm finding here on another one of these older articles. This is from 2019, so it's a bit ago, of course. But
right,
one of the guys there is saying that 1,000 horsepower class, it's a Honeywell HTS 900 shaft turbo engine that powers 3 generators in hybrid electric propulsion.
So that
would mean that that would be better. Well, it looks like that that one in the body, it does not. Well, maybe it still.
No, it doesn't look like the one
it's fixed.
It's fixed.
So it could be a shaft driven. That would make that easier. But yeah, the ones in the wings are electric motors. It says
right here it says that these are ducted fans, and it says dual electric motor. So I'm wondering if there's 2 per fan. Okay.
250 kilowatts.
So we're talking about 6 motors in total.
3 generators.
3 generators.
Drive the electric motors.
Look,
that's the generators. That's
correct. Correct. So here's an advantage to their design. An advantage to their design is that if they're using electric motors, that basically this system will augment itself to the point where it can induce stability just by variable of the voltage and the spin of the motors, which is easier than putting strain on a transmission and so on and so forth. And I'm sure it could do it fairly quickly. My biggest concern at this point would be, again, the forward loading of the cabin, because all that extra weight out front is going to have to be counterbalanced by something back here. And if you're putting lift in the back, okay, if you're putting enough lift in it, I just want to know how much stability and how much you can actually tilt the vehicle in, like, say, nose down attitude
Yeah.
before it becomes partially unstable. That would be my
Yeah,
thing.
no, I see where you're going with that.
So if you push that nose down too far, you will never have enough thrust to bring that nose back up, and the lift portion of those wings is too far back. So
Yeah, and I guess that's where I was curious about, honestly, too, about just straight takeoff
yeah,
mass. What are they saying? This is not payload, but just pure, like, what's the vehicle weigh? I
right,
know you said it's carbon, right?
right.
All carbon.
I can't see this having to be over 7 or 8,000 pounds. I mean, if you're over 7 or 8,000 pounds, I don't see how you get everything stuffed in this thing, because this front has to be super, super light at that point. And I'm speculating, so I don't know, but I'm just throwing that out there without seeing their vector diagrams and how they're creating lifts. So
Like to look at the numbers.
we want to see more. So anyhow, if you
there you go.
yeah, XTI aircraft. If you're out there, if you guys, if there's somebody out there,
keep track of,
yeah, you know something more than we do. Obviously, it's got the pedigree. It's got Gusta Westland name behind it. It's got a proven power plant that's out there. So we'll see what they get. But it looks like they're joining the ranks of others. Different design though, definitely different design, and going after a different market where this one would be end to end travel, where you wouldn't be taking an air taxi. You would literally just be jumping on it and going, for a long duration trip. And then if you could land in some centralized city with a basic helicopter pad, I guess it's going to fit wherever you could put an S-76 or an S-92 or
it is interesting.
Maybe
that,
a Bell 407, you could fit this thing.
They have it go that speed and that altitude cruise,
Mhm.
but also the fact that they're really targeting helicopters in a lot of the figures.
So there's going to be one point that's going to be critical when you're descending out of 29,000 feet and you're designing your approach path into some place. By the time you get to 10,000 feet, you've got to know where you're landing. And unless you have an approach selected at these places, you're going to have to be able to bring this thing down to, to transition to a vertical.
Well, that's another question.
And so you're going to be dropping this thing out. It's going to be a fun ride.
I was wondering also, another thing I was thinking was, this is, I'm way ahead of probably everything, but it's just thinking, what's an out of ground effect thing thinking on this. Again, that goes with how much is the weight. I don't know.
I don't know how much. If I knew how much you weighed, I could tell you out of ground effect.
I guess where I was going with that was, like you said, if you're talking to approach, whatever, and you're coming down and you want to land helipad, that may not be something they normally hear when you have somebody cruising out of 29.
Where are they going to put you?
Well, that's what I'm going with.
Because you're going to be on some sort of.
You can slow down. Sure, you're going to have to obviously below 10.
Right.
But then, like, is this going to be where we go with custom-made approaches, right? Custom-made approaches to helipads.
Yep.
At airport, or not airports, but at medical facilities, and you're just gonna come down off of flight levels to go land at a helipad. I mean, what about awesome?
One last challenge of coming out of 29,000 feet is that in the fall, winter, and spring months is icing. I wonder how this thing will deal with icing conditions, because when you come out of 29,000 feet, this airframe is going to be cold. And it's because once you get above 24,000 feet, just about any day of the week, every temperature is going to be negative, especially even in summer. So it'd be interesting to see how this airframe is going to handle that at that levels, because once you make those transitions, not easy on an airframe at all.
Weather. I hope we don't lose the stream.
Yeah, we're hearing the rumbles of thunder, but hey. Like, subscribe, follow. Yep. Remember, hey, just hit us up. If you have any questions on this one, or if you know anything more about it than we do, let us know, because we'd be happy to see more information about it. You know us, we just pick this stuff out from the future. We like to see what's going on in these marketplaces. XTI, not knocking it. I think they have challenges in front of them, but we'll see if they can make it through the marketplace.
And we're to keep track.
Yes, we are.
We like the new fancy
shiny stuff.
Yep. So,
All right.